Parker Bohn III was rewarded for his career accomplishments last year when he was inducted into bowling's Hall of Fame. But Parker is far from finished with his career, and today he needs to win just one match for his 26th career title in the tournament that bears his name. Welcome to the Bowling Club here in Latham, New York, just outside the capital city of Albany, where today ESPN is proud to present the Parker Bohn III Empire State Open PBA Championship. Before a sellout crowd, we welcome you live. Hi again, everybody. I'm surrounded by fame. My partner today is Hall of Famer Brian Boss, and of course Hall of Famer and our host Parker Bohn. But much more than just a namesake, because you've spent a lot of time in this community raising money for charity, local auctions.
We've done a lot of charity work. I've been coming to the Albany area for about 15 years now to support not only the tournament, but charities as well. And I'll tell you, after this week especially, there's going to be a lot more charity work in the future up here.
Well, there's no question who this crowd, who your fans behind here are pulling for. Good luck today.
Well, thank you. I believe, though, that there's 4 other players out there trying to get that title, so we'll see what happens.
Time to go bowl. Let's talk about those 4 other players. They're all fiery, as is this Hall of Famer right here, Brian Boss. Let's start with Cris Barnes. Talk about a comeback last night.
Well, you know, Jim, I crossed next to Cris Barnes during qualifying, and with 2 games to go, he was the number, and he mustered up a couple of good games, made the cut, but during match play, he was really never in the top 5 until the last frame of the last game. He ended up bowling a good game and made it by just 3 pins.
Meanwhile, last night, every answer that Parker Bohn gave us, well, his friend and rival, Jason Couch, disagreed with.
Well, Jason has admittedly said that his former roommate of 7 years and his #1 rival, he's tired of losing to him. He's tired of being number 2. He's got something to prove today.
So let's get set now for our first match. In 5th place, the 1998 Rookie of the Year and 2-time PBA champion, Cris Barnes. He'll take on the only other right-hander in our finals field, seeded number 4, Brian Himmler. Lefties captured the top 3 spots with Ricky Ward in the 3rd, seeking his 5th career title. In 2nd place, the 2-time winner of the Tournament of Champions, the fiery Jason Couch. And our tournament leader, in search of his 26th PBA title, Parker Bohn III. That's our field for the Parker Bohn Empire State Open. I'll tell you what, if you wanted to see emotion, Brian, last night here in the final stage of qualifying in that last game, this was quite an effort.
It really came down to the last frame last night between Cris Barnes and Rick Steele-Smith. Yeah, as we were saying, Rick Steele-Smith ended up needing a double to make the show, but Cris Barnes just put on a tremendous show, bowling a real good game in the last game, but just 3 pins.
"30 years of age, out of Wichita, Kansas. Now the man from Cincinnati, 27 years young, Brian Himmler.
Nicknamed the Chief. You know, Brian Himmler is one of the really premier power players on our tour. Just gets tremendous amount of foot speed.
Watch the outside line.
We're going to watch him go from about the 15th board, right there, 16, out to about the 3rd board, and almost didn't make it back, but I think he's happy with just 9. Hard and straight at the spare, as almost all power players do. Match all even after 1.
Well, I can tell you where some of that power comes from. I've never seen a plate of ribs and fries and gravy disappear so quickly as last night about midnight.
Brian can put it down. You know, like we said earlier, just one of the really premier power players. When he gets it going, he can strike with the best of them. Probably has the fastest feet on our tour.
Now on the spare in the 1st. A little check of the footwork.
Well, players, you know, if there's one thing that they can't stand is when the approach is either a little slippery or a little sticky. And it looked like he slipped a little bit, but he managed to stay behind the foul line and make the spare. Now, once again, at the 6'10", he's going to throw hard and straight. And by doing so, hopefully we'll avoid what we call the chop.
And just like your golf game, you restart. When you're in that putting routine, you go back. If there's a noise in the crowd, a distraction, and that's what he did.
Well, routine is extremely important. Anytime you get out of routine, you know, you're not ready, you're not comfortable, just back off, reset yourself, and go through your routine. Cris Barnes, I tell you what, you know, I've watched a lot of players over the years, and this guy can get it done. He's got all the tools. He's got imagination. He just really rips the cover off the ball. And when he does that, he gets a lot of pin action.
If there's a weakness in Chris's game, what do you think it is?
You know, physically, he has no weaknesses. Like I said, he's got a lot of imagination. He can play a lot of different shots. If there's any weakness, it's his own self-doubt. And, folks, we saw that a lot this week. Just a solid 10. And he said that a lot this week. Brian Himmler on the bench doesn't mind seeing a solid 10.
That's wife Linda, national amateur champion, 4-time collegiate All-America.
Makes the spare, no problem. And folks, today you're going to be seeing these guys playing the ball way out by the gutter because right around the second board, there's no oil. And the guys are trying to get it out to about 3. And if they get it to 2, it's going to hook back a little bit more.
Well, the Chief uncorks one there.
That was a good shot by Brian. Just trying to get loose. He realizes if he can get by this first game, he'll be under the lights. Butterflies are gone. Get a nice feel for the lanes, because after this match, Jim, he's the only right-hander left on the telecast, so he'll have no excuse. Cris Barnes with a 2-pin lead. Brian Himmler with a strike in the third can take an 8-pin lead if he gets this one. Well, folks, that's what happens when you throw the big hook ball. You get a lot of strikes, but the bad shots, you get a lot of splits. He just looked like he didn't quite catch that one. The ball didn't make it back and leaves a very difficult 2-4-8-10. It is makeable, though.
What was Brian's reputation before he came out here on tour? I mean, you guys, the skinny in the locker room?
Well, after we see Brian try to make the spare, what he's got to do is he has got to just barely touch this 2-pin on the left side, slide it over into the 10, and the ball will take out the 4 and 8.
So the door is open. Cris Barnes, we are live at the Parker Bohn Empire State Open. He's the #1 seed coming up. Back live at the Parker Bohn Empire State Open here in Latham, New York, just outside of Almaty, along with PBA Hall of Famer Brian Voss. How about our lane conditions?
Well, Jim, this week we oiled the lanes to 28 feet and buffed it to 35 feet. Now, most bowling centers across the country go to about 40 feet. That means the ball's going to hook a little bit sooner, and the guys that really struck this week were the guys that had good ball speed. Delay that hook just a little bit farther. Solid 4.
Oh, boy.
He's making good shots, and right now he maintains 13-pin lead. But we're only in the first 4 frames. Anything can happen. So again, he's going to go hard and straight. And today he's using a different ball on his spares. Just because the lanes are hooking, he's got a plastic ball, virtually no hook. Cris on the left lane so far has failed to strike. Looking for the first one.
Unlike earlier in the week when he told us last night he was yanking at 3 left all week long.
That was just as pure as it gets, and that's what Cris Barnes is all about. When he gets on a roll, he's really one of the purest shot makers in this game. Brian now 13 pins now. We're entering the midway portion of this match, and he's got to get something going. Solid 4. Just a little bit slow on the speed. All right, Brian's going to go from about the 16th board. Oh, he's trying to get it to 3. He didn't quite get it to 3. Solid 4. Hard and straight.
Talking to him last night about pressure, he said really it's a double dip. The first pressure that Brian feels is to make the top 24. Then you start worrying about the top 5.
That's it. You take it one step at a time. We have the qualifying rounds. Your goal is just to make the cut there. And during match play, you simply focus on each match, one match at a time. And, you know, if you go out there and you win 67% of your matches, you're going to make the telecast. But Brian pretty much was there most all the week. Cris Barnes, on the other hand, was never there until the last frame. .23 pins down, 5 frames to go. He's got to get something going.
You see his eyes look down just before the release?
Well, you know, there's certain players that target differently. Some guys look about 2/3 of the way down the lane. Other guys will look at the arrows. And some guys do both. They'll look at their break point and then right back. 16, right out to 3, and this time just throws it absolutely perfect. Stays in the match.
Dang it.
Cris looking for his first double and the 4-pin again.
His spare ball looks like the grip on Donna Capone's putter.
Well, you know, there are a variety of balls nowadays that players use for spares. And since they're made out of plastic, you can do some wonderful color designs with them. No problem.
Linda, 7 years on Team USA.
Give it back anyway. Fine.
And Cris has really bowled a good match. Just solid hits on all of his 9 spares. Those could have been strikes with just a little bit more speed.
There you go.
He's been working very hard all week long on his timing. He came in saying the timing was the problem. He said he hadn't paid a lot of attention to it. Been rather ugly, but not today. Live in Latham, New York at the Parker Bohn III Empire State Open. PBA Hall of Famer Brian Boss alongside. Glad you're on board. The Empire State Open, our host, Hall of Famer Parker Bohn III. Barnes up by 3 pins.
Well, Brian in the 7th frame. He struck once in the 3rd frame, but he's got to get something going. We've only got 4 frames left. You know, Jim, you asked a little bit earlier about Brian's reputation before he came out here. He was an action player. When he was 14 and 15 years old, he'd bowl anybody for any amount of money. And you really can't replace that kind of experience when you know, prepare yourself for this tour.
Tonight on ESPN, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, the St. Louis Blues and the Dallas Stars meet in the National Hockey Night Battle of Western Conference powerhouses. Blues coming off last night's 4-3 overtime win against the Avalanche. ESPN National Hockey League, the Blues and the Stars.
Now, Brian in the 8th frame, he can take the lead with a strike here. And we saw this earlier in the match, this time without the 4-pin. Now, this split's virtually impossible, a 2-8-10. There's really 2 ways to get this. Number one, you've either got to get lucky and hit these 2 pins directly on top of each other, hope one bounces and comes from behind and catches it. Or the other way, well, he almost did it. He almost did it. You know, that's one of the advantages of being able to throw hard. You can bounce those pins around.
18th in the PBA World Power Rankings. Watch how close he comes.
We're going to see it bounce off and just barely misses it, maybe a half an inch. Now Cris has left a 4-pin 2 times in a row on this lane and just throws one absolutely perfect. And right now he's in a position where if he strikes on the next ball, he'll force Brian Himmler to strike out to have any kind of chance. This ball was just absolutely perfect. Got that ball all the way out to the second board. And he likes that. He wants to put this match away early. And like we said, a strike here would virtually put this match out of reach. And he did it.
Two-time collegiate bowler of the year, Mrs. Barnes right there.
You know, occasionally his wife Linda will give him a little help when he's bowling. Not physically, but she'll kind of map out some of the pairs that he's going to. And Brian Himmler, if he strikes out, will shoot 201, and basically he's going to force Cris Barnes to get 8 pins on the first ball. We've seen worse things happen in the life of this tour. But he's got to have the next 2 to have any kind of chance. Smacks the 10 out.
He was pretty upfront last night. I mean, he said, if I beat myself, I'm going to lose.
Well, this left lane has just destroyed him. I mean, 2 open frames in the 3rd frame and the 8th frame. You know, when you strike on one lane and have trouble in the other lane, that just drives you nuts. But he's got an outside chance. He must strike on this ball. Dead perfect. And, you know, you could just see the subtle little adjustment he made. He just backed off on his speed a little bit just to give the ball a little extra time to make that move. And he did it perfectly.
Well, he talked to you and I last night about how his attitude changes when his back's against the wall. I mean, it's aggressive. He focuses. You need to put it all together.
I think that there are a lot of guys that do better when they're chasing the lead as opposed to holding on to a lead. And obviously, Brian's one of those guys. 9 on the last ball gives him the score 200. And Cris Barnes basically needs 7 pins and 1 on 2 shots. I think he'll be able to muster that up.
Advances. He talked about pressure, said it's self-inflicted. So Barnesy advances. We'll come back live to Albany. It's the Parker Bohn Empire State Open, the top seed. He bowls last. .224 to 200. Cris Barnes, seeded 5th, will advance. Ricky Ward is up next. There's the final scoreboard. But you know, the 98 Rookie of the Year, talking about Cris Barnes, with 2 victories to his credit so far, was struck by tragedy when he was just a youngster and one important family member wasn't around to enjoy his success.
He was even a hero to the very end. He got my mother and my sister out of the house and went back into the house after me and never came out. And I made it out later through I was in a basement, and some neighbors pulled me out. And, you know, to deal with that afterwards is, I became a very angry kid. You know, I didn't know why my father, you know, my best friend was taken away from me.
After the tragedy, what Cris did was turn to bowling.
It was kind of a twofold thing. It was my escape, because as long as I was busy, then I couldn't wallow in, you know, in self-pity, I guess. So I dived in full force, and probably at that same point, winning became everything. That was the only outcome that could help erase some of the pain temporarily that I had. So it was you know, but at the same time, it was also the time that I always spent with my father, and he wasn't ever there to see the winning part, which is what I wanted to show him. I always have that belief that he's up there and he can see how things are going, and then he's proud, you know. And but I hope that I've done, you know, that at some point I can be, bear to any standard, the type of man, father, husband, and hero that he was.
Popular man out of Wichita, Kansas. He's got his own Cris Barnes fan club. He's got his own .com. And now he's got his hands full with the fiery Ricky Ward.
Well, I tell you what, Ricky hasn't made a show in about 16 months. Cris, on the other hand, 12 shows last year, but no wins. He wants to win real bad today, Jim. Wow. Solid 10 once again. We saw this so many times this week, and if there's one pin that drives you nuts, Jim, it's a solid 10. It's almost a perfect shot, and the result is just 9.
They're 10 that make me nuts.
Makes the spare, no problem.
As he did in match 1 against Brian Himmler. Again, Barnes 224, Himmler 200. Yeah, and talking to Ricky, you know, he said he's been absent for what he calls the big show for about a year and a quarter, the big dance here, and he's just happy to be on it.
Oh, absolutely. Perseverance for 16 months. Just keep trying every single week. And his first shot on TV in 16 months was not a very good one. But he's happy. I mean, that split, that could have very easily have been a split. He's only got the 4 pin left. He's trying to get this out to about the second board. It hits the 4th board and just doesn't quite get it done. Makes the spare.
We also get into that kind of interesting and somewhat controversial this week for you guys, lefty-righty situation.
Well, you know, that's been a controversy in this sport for years. It's a difficult issue, but it really comes down to the left side of the lane doesn't get played on as much as the right side, and so the oil gets used up a lot more on the right side, and sometimes it's an advantage for the lefties. But Ricky just goes out there and makes a real good shot on the left lane. Cris has been around the pocket every single shot. He's using a different ball on each lane.
That's probably a pretty good 9 there.
Yeah, Brian, he's so intense at the bowling center. What's he like away from the lanes?
Cris has got a great personality. He's got a real good humor. He's personable. Everybody likes him. Very easygoing. And he's always joking around. He's just really a wonderful guy and a great representative of the sport.
As is that lady. Ask her about her amateur competition. She said she did it for love of country. Very proud of her amateur record, isn't Linda?
Yes, she is. Cris back on the left lane.
Thank you very much.
That's why you throw the power ball, just like that. Just the head pin goes to the wall and just comes flaming back and just drives the 10 pin out. He's going to get this all the way out to the second board, and watch this head pin just flame across there and knock the 10 pin out. Oh yeah, he likes that.
Yeah, Ricky was talking about struggling all week with his mechanics, but he made a phone call to Mike Miller, who seemed to get things on track, huh?
Well, you know, there's players out here that help each other. You know, sometimes your coach back home can't be here, and some of the great players out here offer their advice. Mike Miller's one of the guys, and I think he credits him for making the show this week. But with that strike, he takes an early lead over Cris Barnes. He's back on the left lane. And another strike here would send a statement. And a very odd 10-pin.
Are there times in a game, in a match, that you think you're lucky and other times you think you're unlucky, or do you not even have time to think about it?
Oh, yes. You know, players keep mental tabs of how many shots your opponent made that were lucky and unlucky. And if you're bowling in a match and you've got 2 unlucky ones and he has 2 lucky ones, you feel like you deserve some kind of break. Makes the spare, no problem. And he's got a 10-pin cushion after 4 frames. Cris is really, really in the zone right now. He's throwing the ball pure. He's left 10 pins and 4 pins. Snaps the 10 out that time. You know, there's certain shots when you let go, you're just asking for a little bit of help. He knew he didn't throw that just perfect. He had to get a little help, and he got it.
How hard is it to be the 5th qualifier and try to mow down the field?
Well, I tell you what, if you win that first game, it's not that hard, Jim. It really isn't. If you get a good feel for the lanes, you've been under the lights for a while. We've seen it many times in the history of this game. Guys have done it an awful lot. And the match is all even. Yes! And almost the exact same hit as the right lane, smacks the 10 out again.
They call him Buzz Lightyear. He's on a roll now.
We're going to see the 6-pin go to the wall and just snap the 10 out. And he likes that. You know, as competitors, you expect here and you expect to go to battle. You expect your opponent to keep striking. And you got to be prepared for it. Which he does.
Hey, Ricky said last night, if you can't handle the pressure, you shouldn't be in the kitchen.
That's right. We're halfway through the match. Cris Barnes with a 10-pin lead. A strike here by Ricky will even everything up. And Jim, almost the same hit as he left last time.
Oh.
And we see the same thing we saw 2 frames ago. He snaps the 7 out. He thinks it's got a chance, but the 10-pin stays.
Asked him about pressure last night. He struggled, said he couldn't think of an answer, said he had a little restless night's sleep. Then this morning he said, hey, you can control pressure, but not the result. In the first match, Cris Barnes, the 5th seed, dispensed with Brian Himmler, 224 to 200. Match number 2, there's the scoreboard up against the lefty, Ricky Ward.
All right, you talk about margin of error in the game of bowling. We're going to watch this shot. The 4-pin goes to the wall, smacks the 7 out, and a 1/4 of an inch more on the right side, he just smacked that 10 out. And now Barnes on the left lane gets it all the way out to the second board, and you're going to see this headman come flying back, and he takes it out.
Whoever wins, a couple of pretty tough lefties. Jason Couch and tournament host Parker Bohn await the winner of this match.
Yeah, 2 of really the premier lefties in our sport. But Cris Barnes right now can take a 20-pin lead with a strike here. Jim, that was one of those shots. He knew when it got off his hand that was going to be perfect. Just as pure as you can get.
He might not make it to the championship match. He might explode.
Well, you know, if you're going to be on for an entire telecast, you've got to store some of that energy up. You've got to assume you're going to win this game, but you've got to have something left for the next two, because they're going to be tough matches.
Good point.
Now to increase his lead to 30.
There we go. Yeah, that's the way.
That's it. Just a replay of the last shot, just as pure as you get. That's Cris Barnes at his best right there, Jim.
About 10 feet out, he knew it.
I tell you, the great players, as soon as it comes off your hand, you know. You know.
Ricky actually said this morning that making the Final Five is easier than the week of qualifying that you guys go through. I mean, that's grinding.
It really is a grind. 3 days of bowling under intense competition, extreme conditions, and just to be able to make it to the top 5 is an accomplishment in itself.
All the information about Ricky, Cris, Brian Boss, Parker Bohn, available on the PBA Tour website, just a mouse click away at PBA.com. The site contains up-to-the-minute tournament results, player bios, features, stories, and an interactive fan chat session. All that and more at PBA.com.
We just heard Ricky say this is going to be the hump frame. He feels like he has to have this shot. This is the pivotal point in the match right now. And he got it. Stays alive.
Well, for a guy who's been absent from the big show for a year and a quarter, he's accounting for himself very well.
Well, Ricky's an experienced player. He's won a couple tournaments before. He's made other telecasts. Just needed to refresh his memory what it's like to be here. And now all he can do is sit and watch Cris Barnes and hope that he doesn't strike. Disaster. Disaster. Now, Cris has got to go back and assess what kind of a shot he made. Did he make a bad shot? Was it the lane changing? You know, that's something that only he knows.
You heard Linda saying, come on now, get a chance. 3 years the touring pro, 7 regional titles, 2 national titles for Mr. Barnes, as a nervous wife Linda watches right there. And he self-doubts, any doubt at all about winning out here on tour.
You know, I do believe I can win when I'm out there, and that's the idea, and that's the goal. If that's perceived in a negative fashion, you know, I guess I wish it wasn't, but kind of it's the same thing. It's kind of what you see is what you get. And I am going to go out. I'm going to try and win, and I'm not going to apologize if I do win. And you know, I'm going to be disappointed if I lose, and I'm probably not going to hide that either.
You know, Jim, right now, Ricky Ward knows that if he strikes out, he can shut out Cris Barnes. A strike here in the 9th, if he doesn't strike, Cris Barnes will still have an opportunity to win. But he's currently 5 pins down. A strike here in the 9th frame, the most important frame of any match, would be just huge for Ricky right now. Takes his time. Solid 6. Just didn't quite get that out to the 2nd board that time. It looked like it crossed over about the 3rd board. But he's got to make this spare. A spare here and a double in the 10th would force Cris Barnes to strike on the first ball in the 10th. So it's anybody's match right now.
Ricky says he's really got no sense of his opponent out there when he's in a match. He likes to pace himself at about a 225, 240 pace and thinks if he's there, if he's close, he's got a chance.
Well, you know, different players view it differently. Some guys think, all right, I'm going to go out and bowl my 10 frames and do the best I can. But you know what, Jim, there's history between players. The guys that make the top 24 all the time are constantly battling against each other. And if there's a history, you know, if you've lost the last 4 times against somebody, there's some psych involved there. But he's got to get a double to put any kind of pressure on Cris Barnes right now. There's the old tomahawk. Well, Cris Barnes got one earlier in the match. Ricky Ward says it's my turn. Just gets this out to about the first board. The head pin goes to the wall and just saws off the 7-pin.
And Ricky's reaction, thank you very much. Yes,
oh, yeah.
A little body English.
Oh, yeah.
How does he get so many revolutions on the bowling ball?
Well, you know, some players, the way they drill their holes, some players bevel the finger holes. Ricky's are sharp. Right out of the drill press. He doesn't put any bevel on them. Right now, he needs a strike to take the lead. Looks like a good shot. Solid 7. He's bowled a really good game, Jim, too.
Looks like Jerry Tarkanian with that towel, right?
Solid 7 with a spare here. Well, he'll finish with 218 and force Cris Barnes to get a spare strike to win.
.218 for the pride of North Fort Myers. 10 years touring pro. 4 national titles.
All right, one good one here.
A little self-talk by Cris. One lonely pin stands between him and victory. He's shot this bear thousands of times in his life. He'll need to make this bear in 5 pins to go on to our next match. Dead center.
The voice of encouragement there. Linda said good spare.
All right, folks, he needs 5 pins. Let's watch and see if he's going to go ahead and play his strike ball and open up perhaps a chance to leave a split and get 5. Or a lot of guys will just throw it real hard and straight, try to hit the head pin, because the least you're going to get when you do that is 6 pins. Hooking a ball, it's possible to only get 4.
He had this exact kind of pressure last night, final round of qualifying.
Yes, he did. And the champion that he is, he came through like that.
Whoa.
And he got it.
I was. I asked if they ever disagree what happens. Cris said, well, I'm always right until Linda tells me otherwise. Welcome back live just outside of Albany in match number 2. Barnes, 224, same score in his first match. This time, 218 against Ricky Ward. So Cris advances. Jason Couch, another lefty, is up next. Coming up next, Brian Voss will be there at the Tar Heel Open in Burlington, North Carolina on Brian and Andrea's 11th wedding anniversary. Then on ESPN, the Winter Tour continues. The Village's Sun Bowl down in Florida on Sunday, February the 25th. That's outside. That'll be exciting. And then the battle at Little Creek. Coming up, Jason Couch. You want emotion? It's filled the building with these two. Couch and Barnes live next. It's a sellout crowd in Latham, New York. And what a top 5 we've got, including our tournament host, Hall of Famer Parker Bohn. This will be, Brian Voss, quite a match.
Both players. We have the number 4 player in the world against the number 5 player in the world. And both of these players are emotional. Some of the best power players we have on tour. And folks, you're going to see some of the some kind of strikes that you never see before back in your home house, the way these guys roll the ball. Jason has opted to start on the left lane, which will mean that he's going to finish the match on the right. Well, that was a power shot right there. Ball was light. Takes out the 5 pin, gets the good action.
that Couch and Barnes hooked up. It was the '99 Tournament of Champions. Guess who won?
Jason Couch. And you know what? Cris Barnes remembers that. And right now he's not thinking about that, but in the back of his mind, he remembers the last time they were on TV and he got beat. Now on the left lane, he's just been pure on this lane, every shot.
Good shot.
Little flat 10 there. 6-pin wiggled it just a little bit, but not enough to knock it down. We're going to see this ball go out to about the second board, but it makes it back a little late, and you see the 6-pin just nick it, but not enough to knock it down.
Rung a 7. That X zone, I plaqued a 7 or rung a 7, I don't even remember. And then I went to the HPD and threw all 3 with the HPD.
And you know, folks, the lanes were hooking all week long. There were some players that went back to balls that were 4 and 5 years old. You know, generally speaking, the guys that create a lot of speed did well this week, but they combined that with using a surface on the ball that didn't have as much friction.
If there's a weakness in Jason's game, to your eye, what would it be?
Well, as a power player, most of the time the power players, when there's a lot of oil or they are required to roll the ball very straight in order to strike, that's his weakness. And I think that if he could overcome that, go back home and work on that shot, Jason would be one heck of a player. Not that he isn't already, but that would just add another dimension to his game. Match all even after 2 frames, as we expected. You know, Jason's one of the guys that he's got a different way of being humorous. He'll rip on his buddies, he'll cut them down, but if you can't do it to your buddies, who can you do it to?
But it is all in good fun. He's got a great sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. No, he fell off of that shot. He's looking at the approach.
I mean, early in the afternoon during the pre-match introductions of all 4, I mean, with all of his credits, the introduction was running on and on and on, and he finally yelled out to the whole crowd, "Will you get to it already?"
Looks like he's stuck just a little at the line. He's going to look down at it, say, okay, no split. Give me a spare to shoot at. That's all I want. 4-7, he'll go hard and straight.
Get 2.
Makes it on the right. Safe. When you see the players stick their hands out, they'll say, I'll take that. I didn't do it like I wanted to, but I'll take it. Now, Cris has been in the pocket every time on this right lane with the exception of that one split. He gets the light hit. Cris Barnes, we're going to see right there. He gets the ball on the right foot, started at the same time. Big high backswing. He fell off of that shot just a little bit.
Another little move here.
But
Just beats it out.
At a 280 pace right now.
he said he made a little move on this left lane. Looks like he's inched over about board left. Gets it at the last second. That's the power player right there. The 7-pin will be the last one to fall. Now he knows right now this is going to be light. He's got a chance. Come on, keep hooking, and it just nicks it at the last second, and that is to take a 12-pin lead. Trouble.
First the hook and bails.
Didn't look like he got out of that clean. Leaves the 3-6-7, a very makeable spare. Split, we should say. Just didn't look like he quite caught it all. It didn't make it up. And that's the... All right, he needs to get this ball just to the right of the 3-pin. Slide it over, and the ball will take out the 6-pin. like that. He heard me, Jim.
One of the hot topics in the bowling world these days, the new Sport League program created by the American Bowling Congress and the Women's International Bowling Congress, Sport Bowling, being offered to those bowlers who wish to compete in the most challenging of lane conditions. Look for them and the Sport League starting at your bowling center this fall.
You know, Jim, as a competitor, when you're sitting on the bench and your opponent leaves a split like that, you expect him to make it. If you're sitting there saying to yourself, he probably won't make it, and if he does, there's a letdown in your intensity. You've got to expect him to make it, which he did. Solid 6. Hold on. Jason doesn't look like he's quite loose yet.
Sometimes when you're a power bowler, do you have a tendency to even overpower it and get out of your rhythm?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that all depends on the adrenaline level that you have. You know, if you got a lot of adrenaline going, you want to do things quicker, faster, harder. But right now, he doesn't look like he's real comfortable yet. Well, we're only halfway there. He's only 16 pins down. There's still a lot of room.
Kind of reminiscent of what Jeff Lizzie started out last week in Toledo. I mean, he looked confused a little bit early on, and then he mowed down 5 or 6 in a row.
Well, nobody knows what's going on in anybody's mind or what their heartbeat is like, but if you get by the first 5 minutes, you get by those first 5 minutes and settle down. Just a great shot by Cris Barnes.
Coming up right after bowling here on ESPN, Davis Cup tennis. The United States against Switzerland. The U.S. trails 0-1. They need to sweep both single matches today to avoid first-round elimination. Davis Cup tennis 2001. The U.S. against Switzerland. For more, log on to ESPN.com.
What a great shot by Cris Barnes. I tell you what, that's a 4-bagger. That's going to take a 26-pin lead midway through the second match.
We are live. The top seed and the tournament host, Parker Bohn III. He'll get either Jason Couch, his ex-roommate, or Cris Barnes. This sellout crowd enjoying some terrific bowling here in Latham, New York. This match, of course, is Jason Couch up against Cris Barnes, and in the 6th, down now by 37 after a spare. Jason's got his work cut out for him.
Right now, he's got a potential 233. Cris Barnes working on a 4-bagger. Just feels like he's got to do it right now. There's not much time left. There he gets the 7-pin out. It's always nice to lead with a strike. You'll at least put some kind of pressure on your opponent. Cris Barnes working on a 4-bagger. Just looks completely in control of his game. Kind of resets himself. That was a gift. That was a gift. He knows it. He's happy. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Is this that elusive zone we allude to so often?
Well, this type of hit, this is perhaps just your day. Just barely hits the 2-pin with the head pin. Everything tickles out, and he says, oh, that could have very easily have been a 2-8-10. But right now, he's working on a 5-bagger. Can increase his lead to 57 pins, and he got it.
I asked Cris to describe his zone. He said simply, great ball reaction. Look at the visualization going on.
It certainly does help to have a good ball reaction, but right now Jason Couch realizes he has to strike out and he has to have Cris leave some kind of split. That's the only way he's got a chance to win this game. And once again, came in light on the right lane. 3-9. Jason say it's amazing. I don't know if he's commenting on whether that was a good shot or a bad shot, but nonetheless, The most he can shoot is 213. Even if Cris Barnes were to open the last 2 frames, he'd be at a 220 pace. So it looks like this one's all over, Jim. And Jason, not one to hide his emotions, visibly upset at either himself or maybe something else is bothering him.
Former roommates for 7 years, Parker Bohn and this man, Jason Couch, wanted a shot at his golfing buddy and his bowling rival.
Yeah, well, I'm sure in the future we'll see those guys bowl against each other again. Solid 6, just trying to get out of the way right now. He realizes this match is over. But you'd still like to strike for the fans back home.
He looks a bit mystified right now. I mean, he's talking to himself internally, but you start rolling those eyes.
Well, it'll be interesting to find out when we hear from Jason whether it was him or the lanes that have created this little dilemma that he's in. Makes the spare, no problem.
So on the verge of sweet revenge after losing to Jason Couch in the TFC finals back in '99 is Cris Barnes. 5 will do it.
All right, Cris knows he's already won this match. He should be preparing himself for the final match. Stay in focus with the lanes that you're on. It's always a good feeling to have 7 in a row going into a title match. You got a good feel for the lanes. And we call that a fast 8. 4-7 with a spare here, and a strike will shoot 258. Just a great game under the situation. And there's your winner, Cris Barnes.
Well, he's mowed him down. First Brian Himmler, then Ricky Ward, then the second seed Jason Couch. When we come back live, Cris Barnes against the top seed Parker Bohn. Very first PBA event held right here in Albany back in 1959, and now 42 years later they still love their bowling here in the Empire State. I got everybody back with the lady that is engaged to our tournament host, Parker Bohn, the lovely Leslie Beamish, who I think is a frustrated game show host.
You could say that, Jim. We kicked off our tour this week with what we call the Tour Mates game, very similar to what people at home watch as the Newlywed Game. And some of our teams that played were Jason Couch and Parker Bohn, Eric Forkel and Richie Wolf, Curtis Woods, Tony Reyes, Justin Romick, and Rick Steele-Smith. And I think the funniest couple this week was George Bryn and Leto Monticelli. One of our questions was, we wanted to know what kind of shampoo Leto used in the morning, and George said, "How do I know it's in Spanish?" So I think it was a great way for the fans to see the guys off the lanes, and they really enjoyed it.
There was a question about boxers or briefs, but more on that a little later. Let's see how your fiance does.
I hope he does great today. Thanks.
Well, as the other players are warming up, we'll look at some of the other finals this week. Patrick Healy was there all week long, just didn't quite make it the last 8 games. Mika Koivuniemen, the great one from Finland, up there, another good week. Walter Ray Williams, who we saw last week. Brian Smith still having a good winter tour. And Robert Smith, it shows even the great ones can finish on the bottom.
So when we come back live, Parker Bohn, the tournament bears his name, the Empire State Open, up against Cris Barnes, the final, the championship match. Back at the Empire State Open, Cris Barnes defeated Brian Himmler. Keep in mind, Barnes was the number 5 seed. He just mowed him down. First 4, 3, 2. Up next is number 1, but very consistent bowling. Last night, right here, Kurt Von Kruger, our tournament director, presented the Rookie of the Year trophy, Joe Piccioni, right there. He bowled well all week. Rookie of the Year kind of gets things jump-started for your career, and we head now to our championship match, the right-hander against the left-hander.
And a couple of former Rookie of the Years. Well, this is a match that everybody's looking forward to. Parker Bohn, really one of the great ambassadors of our sport, along with Cris Barnes. And 2 really of the most talented players in the last few years on our tour. starts off with a light hit. And I tell you what, folks, there's a lot of people out there rooting for Parker. Cris Barnes, after coming off with 258 last game, let's see if he can keep that same pace going. That's as good as it gets right there, folks. Great shot. You notice he's not showing much emotion. He's going to try and save everything up for the last few frames. But I think if he gets this strike, we're going to see a little bit of a reaction. Now, it looks as if Cris is going to be using the same ball on both lanes, whereas before he was using one on each lane. That's how quickly lanes change, folks.
Well, we talk about his zone being good ball reaction. Listen. A little grin to his bride, Linda.
All right, we're going to see the power player shot right here. The head pin goes to the wall and smashes into the 10. Takes an early double. He likes that. Now Parker's got to answer him.
Ask for the re-rack.
You know, the players can see when a pin is slightly off spot. They know that if it's a little right or left, that could mean either a 4-pin or a 6-pin. There's a flat 7.
Flip side of thing, we talk about Barnesy mowing him down. What's it like for Parker? I mean, you wait for about an hour and 20 minutes before you get to...
It's tough being leader. It really is. Even though you're over off to the right practicing, you're not under the lights. You haven't been, and Cris Barnes has been there for the last hour. It's tough. Makes the spare, no problem.
Getting married this summer, but he won't tell Leslie where the honeymoon is.
You know, Parker is really one of the greatest ambassadors of our sport. He's a gentleman. When he bowls well, he shows emotion. When he bowls bad, he kind of sucks it up. And I tell you what, when he gets it going, he is a really exciting player.
I'll let you in on a secret. He doesn't know where the honeymoon is yet either. He hasn't booked it. He's mulling over some options.
Well, here we see a just perfect shot from Parker on the left lane. Just as good as it gets. Now Cris Barnes for an early 3-bagger. Tell you what, Jim, he's in the zone. We talked about it earlier.
Well, you can say what you want to about lane conditions. You boys can debate that until late into the evening, but here we've got a right-hander to kind of dispelling the notion that lefties have the advantage. He's polished off Ward and Couch.
Well, not just a right-hander, really one of the great players of this game. And I think in the next 10 or 15 years, you're going to see an awful lot of this guy. He's really got all the tools to become one of the greatest to ever play this game. Comes the emotion, folks. Each strike inches closer to that victory, which eluded him all of last year. This ball just a little bit light. The ball hits the 5. The head pin takes care of everything else. And watch this. Oh, yeah. That's right. Parker's got to answer him.
That's better. Yeah, baby.
That's better.
Parker's dad right there, sitting next to Parker's fiancée, Leslie.
You've got to be real proud of his son right now and everything he's done in the last decade.
Tell you what, if Leslie and Parker have a son, do we have a fourth?
I would imagine so.
We're going to run out of Roman numerals in this family.
Got a hook.
What took out the 7-pin? Something just barely nicked it. The dramatic strikes in crucial situations are the ones that really get fans going. And we're going to see one right here, folks. It says, no, I'm not going to hit it. And then it says, oh, wait, I'm going to do it one more time and just nick it at the last second. And now Cris on a four-bagger. That one's a little left. We heard him say push. As soon as he let go of the ball, he knew it was left. Anytime a player hits the head pin like that, he's always happy if there's no split up there.
Check the release.
Let's see if we can catch something that Cris, he very rarely does something wrong, but 3-6-10, not an easy spare. He knew it.
Come on, back on it now. Let's go. Come on, Cris, start back up.
Boy, sitting on the bench, Parker Bohn's looking at that, licking his chops. A strike there, he would have taken a 30-pin lead, and now he's sitting on the bench with a 6-pin lead.
That's the way to answer it. That's the way she bowled back in '99. She won the punch doubles in Las Vegas with her partner, Kim Terrell.
We'll see if Parker can jump on this right now. The 7-pin out.
Hey, if you're looking for a great place for your league party or just a few games of open play, make sure you head out to an official PBA practice center. And for a complete listing of PBA practice centers, check out the PBA's website, pba.com.
Well, Parker Bohn, as we said earlier, was sitting on the bench watching Cris throw 4 in a row. An open frame by Cris, and now Parker jumps all over it and jumps to a 17-pin lead. Can he crease it to 27 with a strike here? That's trouble.
All right, get your telestrator ready.
Well, he's trying to get this out to about the second board. He missed about 2 boards right. The 2-7 split, not a difficult split. But nonetheless, he's got to get it right in between these 2 pins, hit this one, deflect off that, or he could get lucky and hit this on this side and throw it over into the pin. We'll see which way he does it.
That's trouble.
He knew it right away. And we're going back and forth, but he still maintains a 3-pin lead.
There is the proprietor of the bowling club, the Bowlers Club right here, Carol Judge. Bowlers Club began back in '62. The very first proprietor was Morris Kramer, instrumental in the formation of the PBA.
Come on, square it up.
Oh.
I thought Linda was coming over the boards.
Oh, yeah. Oh, a little lazy 10 that time. But it makes for a good match because now it's a 3-pin game with 3 frames to go.
All right, that away.
She was like a hockey player in the penalty box, wanted to hop over and help the team.
A little better.
You know, it's got to be tough for the wives. They really can't do anything, just sit there and root them on. Now Cris on what appears to be his favorite lane.
Come on.
What the hell? Wow.
All right, come on.
Holy cow.
Right down.
With that type of reaction, I think he's saying that the lane is changing on me. I made a good shot there, but it didn't do what I thought it should. Just comes in a little bit light. He's a relatively easy 4-7.
2.
And he makes it.
Come on, big finish.
And now Parker with a 5-pin lead going into the 8th. He struck the last 3 times on this lane. And he gets it.
That's the way he bowled last night in the 8th game, the last game of qualifying, because he actually fell behind Couch a little bit.
Well, the last game last night against Jason Couch, I mean, he just shot 278 to Jason's 258, something like that. I mean, he was just striking every ball. But right now, Jim, 9th frame. If he strikes out, he can shoot 246. The best Cris Barnes can do is 231. But if he doesn't strike here, Cris Barnes can go up in the 9th and get them all and shut them out. That's the Parker we know right there in the clutch, 9th frame. Knew he had to have it. Oh, yeah.
Leslie likes it. Dad says, way to go.
Now, Cris really is in a must-strike situation. This has been his tough lane, and that is disaster. Especially on a spare. He lost 10 pins in count. Unless he picks this up, Jim, this match is over in one shot. He knew it as soon as he let go. He's just trying to get it to the second board. Just missed too far to the right, and the big goose egg.
Yes, sir.
And he makes it.
Still a chance.
He's got a chance. Best he can shoot's 211 with a double in the 10th frame. But if he doesn't strike on the first 2 balls, Parker will simply need to go up there and hit the head pin.
Come on, Cris.
3-6-10. And he knows right now the tournament's over. Just a tremendous effort today going through the first 3 matches, and just didn't muster up enough energy to get through this one.
0 for 12 in the finals last year. It was something that was on his mind a little bit last night.
Well, you certainly have to speculate that you know, no wins last year. He just might not have been ready for this match.
But a terrific day and a terrific week nonetheless for Cris Barnes.
Yes, it was. You know, after a horrendous start this year, the first 3 weeks, no cash, to come out here and make a show, he's back. And now Parker, it doesn't matter. He knows he's won this tournament. You know, as a player, you cherish victories where you go up there and strike to win. And when you need to just hit the head pin, you certainly relish the moment, but it's just not quite as exciting as if you would have needed a strike to win. He's going to try and make this for the fans back home. 8 out gives him a score of 210, and that is your winner, folks. Parker Bohn III.
He actually talked about the crowd here as being almost like bowling at home back in New Jersey. Talked about the friendships, helping the charities here. Parker Bohn wins the Empire State, named after Parker Bohn. The final score, a terrific championship match. We're back live at the Empire State Open. So I think we closed the telecast the way we opened it up with our host. You know, we talked last night. I mean, you consider this to be almost a hometown crowd, didn't you?
I'll tell you what, it's my second home away from home. These fans in Albany, you guys are absolutely the best fans on the planet. Thank you very much.
You know, there's your dad and Leslie there. We had a lot of shots of them watching the match. They were a little bit nervous. But it was a terrific championship match, huh?
It was a real good match. Cris bowled great all day, and I'll tell you what, when I got up in the 10th, I don't think I've ever been more nervous to get a ball off my hand and keep it on a lane.
Carol, great week. I know we talk about all the work that Parker's done here for charity and everything. Great job, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you next year.
Take a look at the camera. I think somebody you love very much is in tears. And she still doesn't know where the honeymoon is. The winter tour continues. All right, congratulations to our champion, Parker Bohn III, the PBA Hall of Famer. We'll see you as the PBA winter tour rolls on. The Tar Heel Open is next week. There's the champion for Brian Boss and all our ESPN PBA bowling team. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com.